Hello, and welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Bill Hirschman, founder of FloridaTheaterOnStage.com. Today's show will venture into the field of fine arts. But first, let's meet our panelists. Janice Hamilton has been a gallery owner and a professional auctioneer specializing in fundraising auctions for over 25 years. She's also a wonderful actress. Juliana Ferrero is an independent arts professional, currently working as curator for the city of Pompano Beach, managing the exhibitions for Bailey Contemporary Arts, the Pompano Beach Cultural Center, and the historic Alley Cultural Arts. Adalberto Acevedo is a teacher at the Arthur and Polly Mays Conservatory of the Arts. But our guest today is one amazing artist. Originally from Israel, he now makes his home here in South Florida. His name is Yuval Wolfson. Welcome, Yuval.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for coming. But before we get into asking you questions, let's take a look at this short video about you and your work.
I walk up to the canvas. I take a deep breath. And that's where it all begins. I was born near Tel Aviv, 1966. I started painting as like any normal child. When I was 21, I met Arkai. I was in a screen printing business, and he was an artist. I was beginning my career as an artist. I did his prints and started knowing him. We became good friends. For me, the best situation is to sit in front of a blank canvas. Sometimes I have an idea how to begin. Sometimes I don't need an idea. I just touch the canvas with a brush and something on it, and it starts. It's like a relationship between me and what's happening in front of me. When people look at my paintings, I would like them to feel they are part of a process. The simple thing, like a singer, he's singing about his love, but you don't care about his love. You care about your love when you listen to his song. So it's no longer his story. It becomes your life story. So when other people look at my paintings, I want them to feel part of the story, part of a process of creation, something new. Not like they're taking home something finished. They just began.
Wow, that is just so impressive. One of the things that I always wonder is what an artist is thinking when they come to a blank canvas. What is it? Do you have an immediate reaction? Is there something that you know you're going for? Does it just scare you when you look at a blank piece of canvas? What goes through your mind?
First, I'm trying not to ruin the canvas because I love the canvas. I love the smell of the canvas. It's blank, it's beautiful. I have my own ideas. Now, I have a plan, but it never works. Not because it's not a good plan, it's because you start something and after the first second you start a painting, you start a relationship between you and what's happening there. So you have a new story, a new program, a new plan.
Wow.
Now, I noticed that, and what I've read about your work is that you use some consistent symbols in your work, that across the body of work. How did you choose those, and what do they represent to you?
First, I must admit that I never liked symbolism. I wanted to run away from symbolism. I didn't want to answer those kind of questions about what parts of my painting, what they symbolize. But whether you decide to do it or not, it happens. In the end, you see someone's art and you recognize there are symbols. Mm-hmm. So I didn't mean to do it, but it happened to me. For me, it's a lot more simple. I paint things that happened to me in my life, memories, childhood memories. Good memories, bad ones, memories from war, from peace. I try to make things better, to take bad memories and make them better.
You have several themes that carry through many of your work. One of them has to do with animals as something that you focused on. What I'd like to do is look over at the monitor and look at some of the images that you have painted, and if you talk a little bit about what inspired you, what you were thinking, maybe what techniques that you applied. So if we could take a look at the animals. So what are we looking at here?
We're looking at an elephant.
Right.
Okay. It's an elephant. And obviously it's an elephant.
Is this inspired by anything in particular? Why, when you were looking at a blank canvas, did you choose that?
My first time I painted an elephant, it was a one breath time painting. Mm-hmm. So I had to make a very fast decision about what I'm going to do. Then I decided that if I want to continue painting elephant, I want to make little studies about how it goes, to make some sketches, to read about elephant, to read about the history of the elephant. Then I found out the real story about the elephant, that something like 400,000 years ago, we almost got rid of all the elephants in Africa because it was easier for us to eat elephant. One elephant can feed a large, large family or a village. Yeah, if they had villages then. So they ate all the elephants in Africa. So they have to migrate from Africa.
One of the things I'm curious about is the backgrounds that you paint. Are those done with knowledge of what you're going to put on top of them? No, or is that a secondary thing? In other words, when you came up with this here, did you do the background first and go, I'm not sure what I'm going to put on top of it?
You caught me something, yeah, yeah, because I love painting abstract. Mm-hmm. I began with abstract. As a little child, I decided to paint abstract because there's no reason to paint realistically. We have cameras, new technologies, so why do we have to paint it? So it was abstract. And I wanted the easier communication because when I started learning when I was a student, I went to Avni Institute in Israel, and they looked at my work and they said, this is postmodernism. It's passé. Mm-hmm. And I said, I want to come here to study. I don't want you to say, what do you think about my art? It's postmodern. I didn't know what is modernism and postmodernism. Mm-hmm. I knew theoretically, but not the feeling of what you were doing in order to be postmodernist. But they found me like this. So basically, I'm painting abstract.
Most of your abstracts really start with a very strong emotion, correct? When you're approaching them, have you chosen your subject matter, or are you just starting with color and informing your creation as you go? Or do you have a specific, like an elephant, a specific subject matter in mind, if it's truly coming from your emotions?
Like two forces from two sides. And during my life, I had ups and downs. Sometimes I'm more logical. And when I was young and studied art, it became more, I can say, scientific.
Mm-hmm.
More scientific. And one of the things that helped me, that when I started painting one breath time, when you paint in one breath, you have to do it quick, fast decisions. You start with a plan. After 3 seconds, you lose your plan. You just want to survive a little bit more. It's like the end of life. I need a little bit more to finish it. Mm-hmm. And you realize you will never finish it. And you struggle for the last few seconds, and that's it. For me, it was like the opposite of being so scientific and all the studies or theoretical stuff.
More organic.
Yeah.
When you have paintings of birds as another theme that you use, and I'd like to look at some more of those and ask you whether your process is any different. So when you're doing different types of animals, different types of themes, I know you do landscapes as well.
Yeah.
Is there a different process at work?
Yeah.
Look at these and tell me what you see there.
Of course, it's a different process because I don't like doing the same thing over and over again. It happens, you know. When you look at your art with perspective, you can find that it's all the same, like the same painting again and again and again, new variations, but I don't want it. Every day I have a new way of starting painting. And the birds, it's funny because somebody asked me to do a commission years ago, commission of a car. And he likes birds, and he asked me to paint a bird in the painting. And I thought to myself, why I need to paint birds now? He's paying for the commission, okay, I'll paint him a bird. Then I lived with my family in a farm in Israel. And there were a couple of birds, a large male peacock and little chicken, female chicken. And they were like two lovers for a period of almost 2 years.
Oh.
They were going together, the peacock and the chicken, in our backyard, sometimes coming to our house to eat the cat food. The peacock liked the cat food.
So,
It took me 2 years to realize that I'm watching those birds all day and the relationship between them. So after 2 years, again, I went to a show to paint one breath time in front of an audience. And I had to decide, when I took the brush, I had to decide what I'm going to do now. And it was the peacock and the chicken. So it was the first time I really connected with this stuff.
Realizing how much it meant to you.
Yeah, and for me, it was
you.
the relationship between them. It wasn't the reason that I love birds. I'm okay with birds. I'm okay with animals, okay? But I'm not painting the animals. And then you can say the symbolism. The symbolism is like something that is forced into this process. So you don't decide, I'm going to paint birds because it symbolizes what? Freedom? They are not free, the birds, anyway.
Thank you.
okay, so I wanted to ask you, because as you're talking, it seems that your one breath body of work is more abstract, and then when you do figurative, you take more breaths, like it's longer process. Do you still balance? Like, are you still doing the one breath series? Does it still come often? How does that?
Yeah, it became part of the whole process. It means when I'm working on a painting, there are times that I'm like sunken deep in the painting, and the mind is working, and everything is working like a huge computer. And sometimes I need to just get away from it and be free. So in the same paintings, you have few periods of times and few, you can say, styles.
There seems to be a wonderful conversation that goes on between you and the canvas and the painting, and then in turn us as the viewers, as the audience for your artwork. I'm wondering how much of the environment that you're in influences the work that you do, especially now that you're here in South Florida. Does this environment or even the colors I find really inspiring around us, does that ever creep into the work that you do?
Yes, I think so. It's not intentional, and I live here for a few years, so I can reflect on what's happening to my works, and I think there is something about it.
Do you think that there's a difference between the work that you're doing here in South Florida as opposed to what you were doing in Tel Aviv or in other parts of the world that you may have lived in? Maybe even the politics that are going on in the United States right now, does that influence what's happening in your artwork as opposed to what you must have experienced during your time in Tel Aviv?
When you ask about politics, the only thing I can answer about politics is I feel I'm coming from the future. Like you're coming from the future, you know what's going to happen. You have to come back and persuade somebody to listen to you and to cooperate, and it's very hard. Nobody wants to listen. Sometimes the solution is very simple. You just have to make this person go right and not left, and everything will be different. But it doesn't want to change.
One of the things that he touched on that I find fascinating, you've lived in many different places. You've lived in Norway.
I didn't live in Norway.
You didn't live there. You studied?
I was there. I loved the place. My first exhibition outside Israel was in Norway.
The reason I ask is, as I travel around the country, I get more and more fascinated by the differences in the quality of light and how it affects color and how you see things. You could take me to different places and I would know where I was. Is there something about the quality of light in South Florida? Has that affected the colors that you choose and the way you put things together? And if so, how is that different from work you've done in other environments and other locations?
Usually I don't plan to paint differently in different places, but the reaction of the people around me, the reaction is different. Like if you're talking about Norway, I came to Norway with an exhibition of Monet-like paintings. They were crazy about it because they cherish one little flower, blue flower, that when the winter ends, from the snow, they see little blue flowers, and they love them as if it's gold, pure gold. And then they come to my paintings, those paintings you see now, and they see all the colors, like that. It's more Givernet or something like this than Norway. And they get crazy about it because they don't used to see those colors. One flower for them is enough, maybe too much.
But we just saw a few moments ago paintings you do of cars. What is it about cars that attracts you? It's a lot different than elephants and water lilies and...
Cars are no different of elephants. Okay?
Explain how. Why are they no different?
How? My first car was a Russian truck used by the Syrian army in a war between Israel and Syria, 1973. My father was wounded on 67 war, 6-day war in Israel. So in 73, he just went with camera to take photos of the war in 73. And we're talking about a Syrian convoy that went from the Golan Heights through the Sea of Galilee. And they almost got there, and it's a bombarded convoy. It means my father took a picture of this truck, and I painted this truck. Then it was like a trauma for me, this war. And I started painting the same truck over and over again. Make it better, a little bit more colorful. And it took me like 10 years to painting again and again the same truck until someone, let's say, important in the business, he didn't ask me directly. He asked my friend, tell me, why is he continuing to paint the same model of car again and again and again? And we are selling the paintings in America. Why won't he paint Chevy? Something American for us. Of course, I felt like insulted. How can you talk about such a thing, like the car model? But it takes time to think about stuff.
It's therapeutic.
And why should I paint now Chevy? Now I have to come back to the American history. How did they use those trucks? They have their own wars, okay? And you were asking about the elephants. So now you can understand one of the main uses of elephant was a vehicle of war. Yeah, they use elephant. They went to war with the elephants. So it started as food. Then they used the elephant for war, and now they're using elephant for circus.
You do things with stereographs, do you not?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what you do differently with stereographs. What is it that's special about what you do?
When I found out about stereographs, I was amazed. And I found the catalog of Hundertwasser. He made series of thousands of stereographs, that one of a kind. He took one painting, one model, 3,000, 5,000, and every print is different. And he had a plan how to do it. And he wrote the plan on the side of the seriograph. So you have the pigments, the colors, the structure of the 200 like this and 200 like this, how it becomes 3,000, one of a kind. And I decided that this is what I want to do. And but it doesn't always happen what you're planning. You know?
Well, it's a dying art, really, because clays are so prevalent on the market now. So really, it almost becomes a monoprint. in the sense that each one is a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I noticed that you're using different brushes. Do you use palette knife as well?
Yeah, as well.
And what other techniques do you incorporate?
Technique I love the most is, they call it mix technique. It's kind of a tempera. Van Eyck invented this particular technique. They were using one layer of oil-based paint and one layer of water-based.
And with that, I hate to do this because the last two things is there a website that you want people to know about where they can see your work?
WolfsonArtworks.com.
Thank you. And with that, shameless self-promotion. I want to thank Yuval for being our guest today. I would like to thank our panelists for their time and expertise. Spotlight on the Arts is a community program, so we ask you to get involved. Drop us an email, let us know what you think. Our email address is spotlightonthearts@browardschools.com. And check out our favorite website, floridatheateronstage.com, and also check out hamiltonartauctions.com. We encourage you to get involved in the arts, go to the theater, go to a concert, go to an art gallery, and make sure you tune in next week for another episode of Spotlight on the Arts.